Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us live tonight at the Feminine Power Vortex Facebook group. If you have not met yet, my name is Natalia. I am a self-mastery and consciousness coach and a healer. And I'm here tonight with our beautiful member, Marina Wright, who is psycho-spiritual coach and counselor. And we are going to talk about a very unusual and very interesting subject, which is awakening in business and corporate world. Well, that is something which is not really often discussed, if not at all, in these circles. At least I can't remember hearing anything being discussed about awakening in the city of London when I was working there as a lawyer. And I was very happy to meet Marina, who is also in the similar situation, who is also a lawyer in the city of London. And I would love her to share her story tonight about her transformation journey, and also to clarify a little bit more what exactly is awakening. What are we talking? What are we talking about here? So, Marina, over to you.
Oh, thank you for such a wonderful, wonderful introduction. And for having me, really, for having me in the group, let alone on the live, because as you say, it's yeah, there definitely feels like when I am in quantum leaps in terms of what's happening with the energy and where I am and what stuff that's just coming. And yeah, so I'm Marina. Thank you for introducing me. And yes, it seems like probably when you said it's like a bit of cognitive dissonance, perhaps, in these concepts that is me, really, which is a corporate lawyer in the city, and then this like a spiritual coach, and it's like seems like perhaps both of them are my sub personalities, and sometimes I do wonder whether my ego is having a bit of a game with me, but ultimately that's what it is. The journey that started for me, it's actually only started about 3 years ago. It was a typical, well, I say typical again, mindset programming coming in, but in terms of hitting 40, midlife crisis. So I connected it to that. When actually now when I start looking at things, that there was always some different connection, whether it's to intuition or to the heart, definitely, even being really mind driven and will powered, there was always something else that was whether it was but it was under communication skills or just my personality kind of thing, but actually now I'm seeing the trace that's always been there. I suppose I'm just like remembering, the parts of me that always been there, but I was following the usual mold. I'm Russian, so I came to England 25 years ago at the age of 16, and I went to a boarding school, then I went to university, then I went to law school, then I had probably the same journey that you had. Then I had my training contract. I trained as a lawyer for 2 years, as an apprentice, effectively. And then, yes, I've been in that world for 15 years, working in the city in corporate environment, M&A, corporate lawyer, doing huge restructuring deals. And I mean, yeah, hitting 40 and just thinking I've ticked. For me, it was ticking all the boxes, everything, family, career. And I always managed to combine both, which was also interesting. That's why probably now I'm still trying to combine both. I don't know if this model works or not, being a lawyer and a coach, and how to combine it and to bring it into the corporate world. And I suppose that's why we're talking about it in this context, aren't we? That it is just something, is it unique? Probably not. I hope that loads of people hear this and will come out of the woodwork and say, yes, that's me, and and create this new, not new, but connect on a different level, which is your page and your community is about that, isn't it? It's about just connecting on with on similar journeys and just sharing and saying, it's not, I was thinking, you know, I was going crazy. I've ticked all the boxes. Why am I not happy? I am happy, but something is missing. What is it? You know, and it's from that my journey unraveled from that.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's certainly happening to quite a few people, and specifically quite interesting that saying about London, because it puts so much pressure on you, so much internal pressure. City, lots of demands, and it's so much ego or mind driven culture that something really, for people who are sensitive, something in them really starts to rebel against that, or not even rebel, something like really feels unhappy, or not really unhappy, but that feeling that
something's missing.
And if you are, for example, someone here who is in, well, the city of London is just an example. You can be anywhere. You can be on Wall Street in New York. You can be anywhere, and feel that you've done career, you had your great career, you climbed the corporate ladder, or you set up even a business, but something is missing. You know, you've been in the achievement mode. You achieved, and you already understood that by achieving things in the outside world, you are not going to get fulfilled. If you understand that, you know you need to look inward and start actually exploring yourself, because this is the only way how you can get fulfilled. And the thing actually is that we don't understand that our inner urge for fulfillment, that it's the inner way, inner journey, we take it outward, and we take it in a way that we have to achieve things. So it's just it's not that that we are trying to fulfill that inner urge, but the means of fulfillment are not adequate. And you can't really fulfill that inner urge by limited means. And whatever you achieve, it will be limited in a way, comparing to that the depths of fulfillment that you can get when you are when you start going more inward inside yourself. So I'm really happy that we are talking about this tonight, because I know that there are quite a few souls, or someone would say the term old souls, that were placed specifically in such conditions to experience that type of environment of business, or of
achievements. It's those external achievements, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. That type of environment, that type of drive. So to get a taste of it, to come more inward. So it's really an important subject. So let's.
But you know, sorry to interrupt, but what's coming up for me, it's this inward or outward journey towards inner self, and you know, something within is so important. But what we're talking here about happening in the corporate environment, or in quite not an esoteric, typical sort of well-being spiritual circles. I think that's what we're trying to raise awareness, or at least sort of put the hand up and saying, yes, it's happening in this kind of environment. Because what I'm noticing, and it's lovely when I enter, I'm sort of an outsider in a way, because entering, that's why like it's so valuable to have a conversation and have people that actually will respond and will recognize, because it's a matter of saying, well, I'm outsider in the esoteric and spiritual world, because I come from a corporate world, and suddenly I feel, and obviously I'm also a bit of an outsider now in the corporate world, because I bring this different dimension of spirituality into the corporate world, or into the coaching. You know, you do coaching, or you do psychotherapy. I chose to study and to become a counselor of psycho-spiritual. So there is that depth of psychological understanding by psychosynthesis, which is my modality. It's all about soul. It's, yes, we have the personality and loads of sub-personalities. There is a psyche, but there is more. You know, it's not just body, mind, feeling at the level of personality, which is amazing. You know, there is soul and there is spirit. And like, how do you put all of that together? And me being outsider, sometimes now that's how I feel. And we'll talk about challenges later, feeling out of certain circles, but that faith and authenticity and finding whatever fulfills within, then, you know, gets me through. At least I can only speak for myself. So I wonder if it resonates with anybody else, and with you as well, that inner outer journey, but in different circles as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be actually quite challenging for people, because I don't like to use the word spirituality that much, because it can mean like different things for many different people. It can be and sometimes for people, like when you say spirituality, its connotation is with something like psychics, or you know, the woo-woo stuff, and so which is why it's quite important that in this conversation we just I would like us to clarify actually what does it mean to be an awakened being. That it's not that we are it's not that we are having like wings. I have not seen yet. It's not that
oh, sorry, I was just about to show mine.
It's not that we are having light coming out of our head.
The third eye.
It's what does it mean actually? What does it mean?
Well, I suppose, as you said, it means different things to different people, right? And there is a confusion, as well as, you know, you don't talk about religion. Before it was like, you don't speak about religion. Now you don't speak about spirituality. And for me, it was about putting my head above the parapet and actually saying, so when I had to put in my description a psycho-spiritual, I knew what, you know, the triggers or misunderstandings that it potentially might bring in people. But I know what spirituality to me, and it means one thing, is connecting to self and to I and self. And it's just, yeah, being that authentic, awakened. Even for me, like, for example, awakening and awakened, I don't use that term, because that, for me, I think, oh, that's a little bit, you know, people will think, you know, people, what am I, asleep or awakened? You know, that's confusing. So it's interesting, yeah, terminology, and there's so much confusion, but it's coming to what it means to individual people. And to me, it's just really, it's something more than my personality, my history, things, my limited beliefs. It's my potential. So my, like, with my clients and all my sort of material to pass the message on, it's about, yes, I have this body, I have the personality, of course, and it's amazing. But it's about something more than, and that more than is potential. Call it higher self, call it potential, call it creativity, whatever it is. So it means different things to different people. So what does it mean to you?
Well, to me, it's very simple. It's being yourself fully, as you are. Completely, fully as you are, with all your power, with all your beauty, all your potential, being as you are, at the same time being present, being aware, being alert, having silent mind. Absolutely. You can see clearly the situation. You can clearly address people. No negative emotions. You don't have. You are not really triggered by anything. You can respond to situation depending on what is required from you. So you are actually becoming a very simple human being, as you are, not a complex individual, always stressed, always running after something, always in your emotions and in your irritations or an anxiety. No, just absolutely content, fulfilled, and and radiating as well, because there is a certain peace, there is a certain energy that is present with you, that also influences others around you. So it's very
Presence.
presence.
That word presence, and we say when you're in presence of
Yeah.
something, and that has been inverted into in presence of, I don't know, of an idol, or we're idealized and all that. It's been sort of corrupted, I suppose, but ultimately it is about presence. And even like in coaching or in a conversation with somebody, just to be present as yourself, not your ego, not your busy mind, as you said, not your emotions, not your projections, not your history. Just be present in the moment, right? And that's all it is. It's not. But when you say people connecting to self and knowing self, that was my biggest challenge, talking of challenges, because I thought that, I had a plan. I was following a plan. That was my plan. I was exercising will, free choice. I was taking responsibility for my choices, and it served me, it served my personality. And I think that's another aspect that perhaps coming from this other sort of much more mind focused or corporate or high achieving kind of background, rather than really when you originally connected and awakening, rather than, people are just connected and they live their life like that, and they're always present, and in coming from different parts of the world, industries, way of living, etc. It's like it's their natural state of being. But for people who are doers, I was in the state of doing.
Yeah.
So to turn I was so busy doing, I forgot how to be. And it's like, first it was like, okay, so I was on a mission. My doing mission was to be. And I thought, I can't think myself out. It's like thinking what I feel. You either feel or you think. You can't think about your feelings. And the same, if I want to be, I just need to be present. Present tense. And in English, I think it sits really beautifully. Present tense is to be, not was, will, have been. To be. And it's that sense of just being in presence of. But you do need will. I need will as well to do something about it. Otherwise I'll be in Tibet meditating on a lovely cushion, but I still go to work, and that's what I want to bring it into doing. And it's like combination of being and doing as well, I suppose, because it's a different quality to that doing then.
I guess that's actually one of the things that people don't realize. They think that when they think of like an enlightened being, they imagined like a man in yellow robes sitting with a begging bowl in Tibet. It's not really like that. You can have heightened state of consciousness and be a lawyer in the city if that's what you are destined to do, at least at this point of time. There is nothing wrong. And probably that's what consciousness, the global consciousness, or the universal consciousness wants to do. It wants to bring more awareness and more to people who are in these positions, so they can elevate the people around them, and a little bit elevate that congested mind and ambition driven culture. It's quite let's face it, it's quite difficult to be in that highly dense person driven environment.
It is, but at the same time, as you say, it's coming up because energy is changing and life is changing. And what happened in the last year, it is an awakening event, when you have to stop and reflect and be with yourself or be with your family. And we've been stopped from doing a lot of things to figure out, do we know what we are as human beings and what it is to just be? What is it about being? What does it mean? We've been given this gift of stop doing. That's it. You can't go anywhere. Don't go and explore Himalayas. Yes, it's great to track Himalayas, I presume. Can you track here? Can you tap into here? Can you go and explore within, isn't it? Are you ready to meet self? And then suddenly it's like, what self? What were you talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've known everything. I'm really amazed that we've known everything. We flew on the moon. We've been everywhere,
Yeah.
but we have not seen inside ourselves. And that's the greatest paradox of human existence. We know about everything. We've gathered several degrees. We think we know ever,
Yeah.
or we are so intelligent. But about ourselves? Oh, what are you talking about? Of course.
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like what me? Where?
Let's check on the wall. Here a message.
That's
Right
what,
there.
and it used to be like that, and that's why you go to a temple to pray and you look at something, and you know now it's totally changing, because you're suddenly thinking, well, when you get to that level of sort of, you open up your awareness and consciousness and you connect to self, it's actually all it is. It's being curious about yourself, like, what am I about? Not my programming, as I said, not my, it's like the most fascinating journey, you know, the self journey, the self in psychosynthesis. It's the self-realization, I think, Jung, because they all came from that sort of background in terms of psychology, you know, that psychology of the soul, really, that's what psychotherapy is. But again, it's been twisted into looking into the lower unconscious and our instinct, because we have been about survival. You know, and if you look at that sort of very analytical, even look at that, it's even called analytical psychotherapy. Freud is analytical modality of studying the soul. You can't analytically study the soul, you know, like you can only do it spirit, like I know what you said, I know what you said about spirituality, but you can't, it's like the brain trying to understand the heart. It's impossible. And I think now it's bringing it together, and that's why I follow the psychosynthesis model of Asajoli, because it's bringing that together. It's saying, yes, we have all the, you know, it's not about denying instincts and body and all that. It's actually about tapping into something more than, and it's that potential, and it's still yours, you know, it's still yours. And that duality that we have, or you're either spiritual, or you're corporate, or, you know, you're either poor or you're rich, and you'll never get rich if you sit on a cushion in Tibet. Well, says who? Actually, they're quite rich people, you know, and bringing that part of you, that presence into your, it's not about corporate only, obviously we're talking about, it's into everyday life, isn't it? Every move you make, every thought you think, every feeling, where is it coming from self or from somewhere else?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's not that's actually the biggest misunderstanding that people have in spiritual circles. They think that they have their practice, whatever that is, the meditation or temple or church, whatever that is, and then they go out and are back to the same old ways, absolutely conscious or not really aware. It's not how it works. Everything is spiritual. Everything. I remember was one of the teachers who was at probably Yogi Bhajan said that even your poo is spiritual. everything is that.
Because what you're saying is, what you're pointing to is the synthesis of it and actual integration, and not the duality. When I sit, and I've gone through that, and that's been my part of the journey and the challenge. And on one hand, it was like, oh my God, yes, I've never meditated, I never sat on a yoga mat, and suddenly I'm in the Kundalini yoga environment and in a female circle, and it's amazing. And it's so important, because we get our insights or our connections to self through different channels, aren't we? And for me, that's what it was, as well as other processes. But it was so important, yes, to suddenly just become that something else. But it was just practiced for an hour a week, you know what I mean? And slowly, it's like, I know that I've got my yoga mat in the whole studio, and my whole altars and crystals and singing bowls, and a full on, you know, for 3 years I built up a big practice. But suddenly what I noticed, and it served me so well, it's very important, and I'm so grateful for that experience, because that's what has contributed to my awakening and connection to self. It's priceless. Has been priceless to me. But it got to the point when suddenly I noticed my duality about it coming down, because I've got, like, literally, you can see it's like I have to go up the stairs, like I have to go to the next level. I rise myself to be there to meditate, and then I come down and I get irritable just like that, and I shout at my kids. I'm like, and that practices and rituals, I suddenly realized they became my ego game as well, and it really separated me from just being like that and carrying it with me. And that's a challenge from a mind-driven, okay, I've got to practice now, I figured something out, I got a feel of something, and I caught onto it, but only on my yoga mat for a long time, until actually taking it into day-to-day, simple, every conversation, every interaction of being, not just doing my yoga practice.
It's quite important point that you mentioned. Of course, everyone goes through their own processes and their own journey, but it's very important that we don't get stuck to the practices as such, because it's quite often that spiritual people, they just change their skin. They change their clothes. They were in the corporate world, and then or business world, whatever they were, and they decided, okay, I'm leaving, I'm becoming a spiritual person. So suddenly they're wearing white clothes, they're wearing turban, mala, and then they are spiritual, but they're still the same. They get irritated. They get angry. They are not aware. They yes, they connect. And really are flying and one with everything when in their practices. But then outside, they are back to the old patterns of behavior and old identity. So that's quite important aspect to know, that it's not always you are not spiritual when you are practicing only.
It's that thing about being and doing.
Absolutely.
Practicing is doing, in a way, to start with, but when you're being it, you don't need to be on a mat.
Yeah.
You don't. I don't need the ritual. I don't need to read what's the energy. I know now. I know, and I don't need to do all my rituals any longer. But I have been, and I had to go through that journey. We're talking about the journey. And it was so important and valuable, and I'm so grateful for it, to go through the journey, to connect. These were all new things, and I still have crystal. Look, I've got crystal here. I've got my crystals. It's not but that's another thing. Just like I don't want to give up crystals and rituals and sitting on a yoga mat, I don't want to give up my family or my career or the experience or the skill set that I have. And that's what we're talking about, combining both, which seems like things that just, quite, dissonance that I started with. They're cognitive dissonance, but the heart just knows, because the heart doesn't differentiate. It doesn't make me a lawyer here and a spiritual coach here. It just, boom, it's just me. I don't want to put on my lawyer suit and go and be something. I'm pretending. And I don't want to come into my spiritual circle or into my coaching session as a psycho-spiritual coach, putting a different coat, because I'm still just changing coats. I'm still in ego mode, just putting, and it's a fun game. And sometimes it's fun to play it. But ultimately, I know when I connect to self in the conversation, and it's totally different, and it doesn't matter. I don't need to say my name, what I do, how old I am. It's irrelevant, because that's a state of being. I'm not doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can do anything in the state of being, whichever. If at some point of time it's fine for you to combine both careers, it's absolutely fine. At some point of time you feel, well, actually it served its purpose and it's time for you to move and do something else, you will do that. I mean, in my journey, at some point of time, it just was decided for me that I had to leave London. So that was the end, really, of my legal world. But that happened to me. So
mm,
it's a kind of a natural process that happens, and you know when it happens that was the right time to change and
mm.
other things, because that's what life or consciousness is it wants from you.
And that's why it's so beautiful, because it's so individual. We can share, all we're sharing is our journeys. This is just two souls on the journey, having fun really in this in this lifetime. But each one will have their own. But more we hear, when you had this conversation with 50 other people, there are 50 other journeys, and everybody, and when you follow self, that journey is going to be totally unique and authentic. If you speak to 50 people and they're telling you my story, that's not authentic. Yeah, if we were both sitting here saying how we're combining the careers and how it's working out so well, I'm not sure if self-talking, maybe it's ego talking, and now we're following yet another paradigm. When it's the more variety there is, because there's this abundance of so many different variations, and that's why it's so beautiful. Everybody will have their own journey, but more we hear about journeys, we recognize our own, and we start valuing our own, and that authenticity, individuality, rather than, because we've been just put from school, from the age of, we join nurseries, like just, putting it into a box, fit in, a mold, be a mold. You want to be a magic, there's all this magic circle in the world. Like, what does who even came up with that? But it's a very known fact. If I speak to lawyers in the city, they know exactly. And I was never from the magic circle firm, so that was like a bit of a, I was like second or third rate citizen. But I was working for amazing. I wasn't in the law firm because I was an in-house lawyer, but I was working for huge, PLCs, listed companies, organizations that, where it didn't matter, because somebody in my mind, I was following somebody else's mold. Yeah. So it's all about individuality and just amazing individual journeys.
Absolutely, that's all what we can do. I mean, even in our with clients, all we can do is just help them to see their individuality and help them to grow in their own process and in their own journey and in their own process, in their own way. Because there is no fit it all scheme or fit it all approach. It's all really individual, and there is there's no really kind of the way that how things should be.
No, but should be is such an ego-driven, mind-driven, societal-driven up until now. A model should be. You talk to people, I should do that. But do you want to? Want? Like, if somebody says to me, I want to be a lawyer, like what I'm saying, I want to combine it now. This is a game I want to play for now. It's so different from like, I think I should just stick with my legal career because that actually makes me money while I'm developing my other practice. It's just a totally different energy out of shoot, isn't it? And connecting, that's where people need support perhaps, or guidance or examples, just an example to hear that actually, what do you want? A lot of people know that, they'll come up with very quickly with things they don't want. One of the hardest things is like, should, another list of shoulds. When you ask them, what do you actually want? Well, and it's connecting to the one that sometimes in the presence of somebody else or guidance or in whatever form it comes to them, because it will come when there is that intention to connect to that. It will come in any shape or form. A conversation like this, a book, anything, it's just there. Well, it's always there, but they suddenly will notice it.
That's the thing. It's always there. It's just so it is in front of your eyes in the right moment. And if you are listening to this and something goes, oh, that's the right moment. You know it now. But one of the things is quite important, that if you are in this position where because I know quite a few people that are in such positions, but they're still holding on to the old. Let's say, oh my God, I've invested already so much money in my education and in building up this career, and now what? I have to leave all of that and go into nowhere. So don't hold on to things. If you feel that that's not what you want to do at this point of time, it might change. Maybe at this point of time that's what you want to do, but might change tomorrow. You never know. But if at this point of time it's not what you want to do, you just should not shouldn't get stuck to that, because that's what will block your growth. You should always really feel, what do I really want at this point of time? What is the guidance, the deeper levels of guidance? And don't be afraid if you get some radical suggestions, like to change completely and move to a different country, because that can happen as well.
Yes, and it worked, and you're the example of it, right? It's like, but it's only, I think, to go into that radical change is difficult always. I know that. I know the difficulty I go through selling transformational coaching. People don't want to, they think, it's this joke, like, do you want to change? Yes. No. Do you want a change? Yes. Everybody wants a change. Do you want to change? No. Because they want the change again to come from outside. So they come with a situation saying, and they'll be talking about their husband or the boss or the business. I'm like, and as soon as it turns to them, it's like, yeah, but it's got nothing to do with it. Well, you mean I have to change? I've come to you so you change them. I was like, it doesn't work like that, And you're an example of saying, connecting to that. You need to be brave. Usually, still in this current, I think, state, it takes massive knockbacks. You'll be knocked down, and big sort of family crisis, midlife crisis. It's still, I notice from what people that are coming to me, some are coming from that awareness and real, like, connecting to something, but not quite grasping it. And I don't know if you're finding that, but like saying, I know it's something, I don't know what it is. And that's a different kind of guidance. You're in a different,
Absolutely.
Usually it's like, oh my God, everything has fallen apart. It's a crisis, because that's how the soul will break up your system that is not serving you anymore, and your personality. You're talking about being stuck, and really they think they're stuck. It's the personality that is being stuck. Personality structure is holding on to what it's created. But for me, it was like, I've created this for 40 years. Well, what do you mean? Like, break it all down and find something new? It's a hard process. That's why, transformation is hard. You want to give up drinking, you go do some, I don't know, hypnosis, and boom, you sorted. And then you keep going back, because then it's eating, or then it's, I don't know, addiction to relationships or something. It's different, and and it's totally normal. But I think your audience and your channel and your whole thing is about totally different connection. But even then, when you're connecting to it, it's still hard to, it takes faith. I talk about guarantees and faith, certainty versus faith. It's like, which way? You can only have one or the other. If you want and you have certainty, there is no faith, because it's certain. You plan, you do, it comes from a totally different place. And when you have faith, there's no room for certainty, because you're totally open and you just trust, and you step into the space. And that's when you realize you fly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process. It is, again, individual for everyone, and it does take some time to build that trust. And the more you are in yourself, the more you know yourself, and the more you understand the life and how it works, the more trust there is. And in my case, there is nothing else but trust. But it's not like a blind trust that I trust something. I trust because I know
yourself. You trust yourself, isn't it? It's like, we've been trained to trust others. That's why we go for advice. We ask other people first. It's a pattern of behavior. We've been trained like that. And that trust in self is something totally different. And that's why people will go and trust others, and people want advice or being told what to do. But what you activate by turning them to self and focusing on self, or exactly what you're doing, have a conversation with self. How do you connect to that? And sometimes, yeah, and it does, it takes time, as you said. It takes to be in the right presence. And sometimes, definitely as a coach, it's all about holding that presence.
Oh yeah, that's
holding their potential until they're ready to take it, because I can see it behind. But it's not my potential. It's their awakening. It's their understanding. You were saying to me, it's like it's inner standing. Like when you not understanding here, it's a knowing, isn't it? And knowing comes from a totally different place.
Oh, it comes from a totally different place, and it's not. There is no doubt there.
You don't need guarantees there. You don't need certainty. Because certainty is actually, then you see certainty is something limited, isn't it? Because you just certainty.
Which is quite important, that the essence why of people, that when they come to seek for help, and if someone of you that are listening to that, you need to find a person that is in that state of presence, because that's what will be able to facilitate your own self and your own process. Because if you come to, let's say, regular coach who is in the state of person themselves, the guidance that you are going to get will not really answer any of your questions. You will be left on the same level that's the way where you.
Well, the answers will come from the personality, as you said, and it's fine, but the audience, I think, is different, and it's totally that. And I've been in one of these lives, I've been asked a question which I never ever, me coming from the corporate world and not, and somebody asked me, do you consider yourself a guide? And I was like, no, I'm not a guide. I guide people. I'm alongside them guiding, but it's in my presence that people become their own guides.
Absolutely.
I don't want to guide. I want them to connect to their inner guide. And that's totally different.
You need to be a space of transformation yourself. Everyone who's working with people, that's priceless. Whatever you do in any areas, if you're a coach, if you're a doctor, even if you are a lawyer, you can be that space of presence to people.
Yeah.
And that's priceless, because that's the energy behind that. That is what creates the change in someone, or facilitates change. So, but let's talk also a little bit, since we touched upon like the support. Let's talk a bit more about challenges, because I know it's quite it's not an easy process of at least not for everyone, and there are quite a few challenges that happen. So what were your challenges?
So on my journey, the challenge was first to really face the biggest thing, and the fear and the resistance came from and shame and guilt. So all the basic low vibe thing has come up. Even when I just started questioning, whether it's questioning my career, because it's established, it pays well, my relationships, whether it's marriage, friendships, and it was so challenging it was coming up, it was mirrored back. I knew how I felt, and yet it was so hard to look there. It's that shadow side, the real, dark night of the soul, when you have to look, you have to turn, otherwise, and it's a big pull to then. I started looking. It's too hard. The temptation to pull back and just close my eyes and fall asleep again and pretend I haven't seen anything, or there's no call of self to really to answer. It's a typical hero's journey that your audience is probably familiar with. So that was a very, I think hero's journey generally just described, Campbell just describes it as it is, and from psychosynthesis perspective we look at it exactly the same way. So that was challenging. It was challenging to face self, even the ego self, to question ego self, to question. And it wasn't until suddenly, having gone through that painful process, to really just recognize that it is what it is, and make that choice of staying with what is, which is a lot. It's wonderful. My life has been, at that point it was really fulfilling on so many levels, and then making the choices of things that are not serving me. And really, once I face self and I connected to my needs, to my own wants and needs rather than my shoulds, it's then looking at relationships and people, or jobs, like looking at the job and picking up a new career and potentially giving up, still being in that really divisive, well, I have to give up that, and that was challenging. It's a really lonely place, later where you're talking about, and that's why I totally relate to people wanting to hold on to the comfort zone is there for a reason, and it serves its purpose, and not everybody needs to wake up and to go on this journey, but we actually do quite often, not realizing the different gradations, I suppose. So it was challenging to be on my own at that point. It was challenging to then trust myself, and myself with a capital S, and to stick with it when I made decision and challenges were still coming up, whether it's people thinking I've gone crazy, me thinking I've gone crazy. And in psychosynthesis, we've got this concept that we talked about spiritual emergency and emergence. So when it's emerging, something is emerging, when your potential, let's not put another label, but when your potential, your true self is emerging, it's one thing. Emergency happens when it's like, you need help big time. You can't cope. And I didn't have an emergency. I had an emergence, and even then it was a really challenging process of going through. Letting go is hard. Letting go of safety, letting go of control. I'm still working with that, and perhaps me combining too. Maybe, we're speaking a year, I was like, oh my God, I was still controlling it all. That illusion of combining, it doesn't work, but I'm open to it. I'm open now. I'm at the stage, going with the flow, being creative, just play. It's just, I'm so excited about anything that comes up. And that's the flow, that's self having fun, the inner child that has been healed through being given time to play, my rebel that will protest against something that I then realize, well, if I'm still protesting, I'm still in that sort of survival fighting mode, right? So that's not, and it's a journey, and it's never ending journey. So talking about, I've had enough, loads of challenges, but going through every time, it just feels like there's a higher purpose. There is purpose, and it takes me to a new place. But they never stop. It just takes me to the next challenge. And I suppose it's going up the spiral, and sometimes stopping, and sometimes having those quantum leaps, But ultimately, I know that right now, no matter how crazy, how uncertain, it's much more fun. I'm more fun to myself, to people around me. So suddenly my craziness has turned into, oh my God, so now when the crisis comes, like, yeah, well, we just have to ride this. It's like being the surfer, but, surfing, waiting for the seventh wave and then riding it. And when you're down, and you're bruised, you come off that surfing board and it hurts and you don't want to get up in the morning to do it again. It's a process. It's fun. So I suppose that's where I am, still full of challenges every day, internal, external, and just universal. But somehow something shifted. It's just fun now, or more fun.
That's wonderful. That's really. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, it's but when it's too much, you're too much in the process, engrossed in all of that, dealing with all that shadow work, all that emotion that can be too much, too daunting. It has to be lightened up with more light approach and more fun, because self is actually quite humorous. It's like God is
It's childlike, you know,
yeah,
with people
God
talk about childish, but childish is something, but self is childlike. I've connected to the creativity part of me, that childlike, because that's when you're really connected to source, right? So there is a lot to say for that.
yeah, absolutely. But there are challenges in terms of people can be from the old circle, for example. That can be some of the challenge
Mm.
people may face, because you may find that you may become less social, or you would
Mm.
not be engaged in that useless conversations that are happening, about nothing, or about gossiping, or about how people usually like waste their energy exchanging absolutely meaningless words with each other just to keep their mouths busy. So that can be that in the interest in that type of interactions may reduce, so you may see that some people will become distant, or will just leave. So there are some things that need to be just trust the process, and let go, if that's the situation, that's the situation.
That's why when you're talking about support, it's when you go through that stage and you have support, somebody, literally, it's just presence. You know, it's being with somebody who's been on the journey, or who is not judging, who doesn't want to talk. That active listening, all those skills of presence and just being, and love and care. You don't even need to speak. Sometimes you just sit there in silence, or you hug, or you go on a walk. And sometimes it's finding that, and that's guiding, I suppose. It's seen as guiding, but it's finding that person that will resonate, and it resonates, and use heart as a resonator would be my advice, not your mind. Don't look at what people have done, accolades and all that. You hear somebody, when it resonates, you feel it. It's not on the level of understanding. You feel that something resonates, and that's useful to have that, you know. And I've had those people in my life, and in that silence, it's so important to find somebody where you're talking about retrieving, which is great. But if you can actually be with somebody and you need that support, it is there. And if you have an intention not to be alone, just thinking about it will bring around the person that will give you that support.
Absolutely. It's I would say having someone to support you is really priceless, because in my case I've been all alone by myself, and sometimes it was very challenging. It was very challenging, and because we can't see really ourselves from our
Mm.
mind. It is only when we are brought into heightened state, and it's usually in the presence of someone who is in a heightened state, that we can see, oh my God, yeah, that is the case. Because what often I found what happened, I used to meditate a lot and go the silent retreat. So I would be in absolutely expanded state of consciousness and absolute bliss, but then I come back, and in a couple of days I'm still back with my life, and the process has not been yet integrated in me.
Mm.
So there's still this person functioning, and it's quite easy first to flip back to that personal mode and go with it. And sometimes,
Mm.
but you are really confused. What is it? Is it me, or is it person? What is happening? And then the life starts challenging you just to see to see whether you got the point, or not, whether you are really elevated or not. So
It's challenge. It's checking your readiness, isn't it? It's like, are you really ready?
to
Yeah.
get the point, no.
Are
Also,
you ready? Are you sure? The
I
3 times. I go with the rule of 3. You know, you get through 3 challenges, and yes, the soul will always ask 3 times, and it's because ultimate birthright is the free choice, isn't it? That's why we choose, and we can always go back, or we go forward.
that can be really challenging, and having support is really really, let's say the right type of support and the right type of guidance, it's absolutely priceless, because that will help a lot to integrate what is happening with you, and how to facilitate the process, and move it in the right direction, so you are not falling back, and you are not also not doing stupid things which you might not need to do, because it can play both ways. Sometimes maybe some crazy idea come just to like leave everything and go. Where does it come from? Is it really coming from the soul? Maybe that's your mind is playing a trick on you.
It's what you were saying about that expanded, really expanded consciousness. And yes, it comes through silence and it's connecting, but it's about balance, isn't it? It's like we were talking before about, yeah, you can take ayahuasca and just really, the idea is not to be an astral and just really enjoy fun out there. You've got the body, and it's about integrating it and making that expanded consciousness part of your personality. That's the challenge now. You know, it's not about this, it's unity. How do you unite that? How do you integrate it? As you said, yes, you get expanded, you come back, you integrate it into personality, you notice the personality shift.
Yeah.
And slowly the personality shifts, and that's how you ultimately, I suppose, become that conscious being. Yeah. Embodied, not just in your visions or astral travel, but embodied here. That's heaven on earth, isn't it, ultimately?
Yeah, I mean that's another of the big misunderstandings, because people think that that's actually what it is about, that they go in astral or they take ayahuasca and they just getting high, and what they're attached at is just an experience of getting high. But they are not really growing in their being, in their self, in their true self. They just get an experience. Fine, it's great to have an experience because at least you have a taste of it. You have a taste of that expanded consciousness, but it's not that.
But then quite often it comes an addiction though, doesn't it? And all you want is you want to be out there. It's the same. Now we're talking about ayahuasca, but alcohol or whatever else, other drugs is the same. And it's just an escapism. Again, you're not integrating it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like it happens often, like when people completely disregard their daily lives. They are not present because they just sit and meditate in astral realms. They don't care that there are daily things that need to be looked after.
But the soul, when the soul comes down and incarnates, it comes down for the body. Yeah. You know, it wants to taste, it wants to serve, it wants to be in a material world. Soul is doesn't need to get into the spiritual. That's where it came from. It came from spirit. It wants to have fun here. Not up there. We're all going to end up there. That's not the, and that's, as you say, another misconception and misunderstanding, that that's what it's all about. Having fantasies, well, you might as well just live in 3D illusion. It's pretty much the same fantasy, just not as fun, I suppose, but same thing. Still an illusion, isn't it? It's not an integrated truth of self.
Absolutely. What you need to create heaven in this body. Your daily life should be heaven.
Yeah.
It should be heaven. This is what we are talking about. We are not talking about going somewhere in the heaven or for an hour or after we die. No. We're talking about being in heaven in our daily life, every moment of our life. That's what it is about.
Because it's so much more fun then.
Absolutely. Just have fun, enjoy your life, and do what life wants you to do, really, because if you are someone experiencing awakening, that there has to be a deeper meaning to that, and life wants you to go through that process because it wants to manifest something through your body, so you can bring this experience into whatever field where you are. And maybe
and even have fun as a lawyer.
Absolutely.
That's what I honestly, part of this, at least at this current point, is I'm seeing, yes, sometimes, of course, I'd rather do other things, but also it's bringing that presence of me, of fun, of being, of just having, I can have the same deep conversations with my, and it changed, you know, I will hear something and I know that this is sort of fertile ground. Sometimes it's futile, interesting, Freudian slip, to have a totally different conversation. And people that I worked on big deals, suddenly we're talking about really deep stuff, you know, and it's like, oh my God, where is it coming from? And it's there, but again, it's noticing it, isn't it?
Can happen because it is your presence that impacts.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
nothing else. It's not really your words. You can speak, you can be silent and still
Yeah,
impact people. That is the state that you want to be in, and that is the state that brings benefit to the world. Even if life doesn't want you to do anything at all in the practical life, if you are free just to sit and do nothing, by all means you will still bring a contribution to the world by simply by your presence, by emanating that frequency of peace, of love, of joy.
yeah. Oh,
So
that's priceless. That's what you said, just really resonated, because it's how you're sitting and meditating. You don't need, just being present is enough when it's coming from the true self, rather than meditating and pushing away your you know, like fighting with your emotions, with your body that's uncomfortable. Lie down, make yourself comfortable. Don't sit in any particular positions, you know, or pushing away your thoughts. That battle is emanating battle, right? Where you're talking about their resonance, and what we sort of comes from within is then reflected. And yeah, you could be totally peaceful and say nothing and just be, or you could be really doing really hard meditation. Don't waste your time, you know, just go into something you really enjoy, which could be cooking. You know, when you're happy, it's state of happiness. Maybe it's cooking, being with your kids, having sex, whatever it is, emanate that, you know, rather than following some sort of rituals that apparently are supposed to get you to enlightenment or connection to self. It's a state of happiness. The soul just wants to be happy, right?
well, having said that, meditation sometimes can be useful. So
They
because
are, but
it,
when with that level of awareness,
yeah,
or when you actually just starting. But a lot of people struggle. I did that. I was like, well, you know, and give up, because they think that's only. And obviously, once you experience it, you have a skill. It's a very valuable skill, and you get into the state of flow. Your whole life becomes meditation. That's the ultimate goal. You
that
meditate as you go along, isn't it?
absolutely, it's not the point to meditate all your life, because you can use this time for doing other things or for simply being while doing other things. So at some
Yeah,
time the meditation should shift into being, but
yeah.
at some point of time, especially specific meditations are quite useful for many people because they can't
Mm,
be in the state of being. It's really
mm,
there are too much distractions in their mind, in
I
their
agree.
emotions, so they can't do that, so they have to go through that, the meditation. But yes, ultimately you need to leave that aside as well.
But it's
And
a skill. I start every my coaching session, because it's psychosynthesis. We start with body, mind, feeling, Asa Joli's body, mind, feeling meditation every single time, because it's like disidentifying. And first, my clients like, "Why are we doing this?" You know, and slowly they realize it's a skill, because suddenly they notice that they're disidentifying, connecting to I, to your core, to your pure essence and will, which is, you know, that observer, through saying, yes, I've got these thoughts, but they're not my thoughts. I'm not this. So I have feelings. I have this body. You know, it's acknowledging everything we are, but disidentifying to connecting to something else, whether it's I, self, whatever. It's a different essence, which is presence, really. So definitely, yeah, sorry if it sounded like meditation was not the tool. It's a very priceless tool. I think what I was trying to say is, as long as it's, yeah, it does help, and quite often it is that first step. But don't be put off if you can't, because people just think they can't meditate. Just sit, just be, just stay with it. It will take you to a different place. And it's a skill. I think it's not sort of almost sold as a really useful skill to be present to self, not to the teacher or, you know, or to your mind, but to something else. Stay with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, anything else that we wanted to
I don't know. Have we had any visitors, any questions? We had fun. We know that much. We had loads of fun talking.
And let me just check if there are any questions, because I can't. We are not.
I have no concept of time. I have no idea how long we're talking. Or maybe if I press here. Oh yes, it's been, yeah, God, hour and a quarter. So probably time to wrap up unless there are any questions.
With us, they are. My comments are stuck, so I can't really read them. But I hope, guys, if you're watching this video and you have any comments or questions, by all means, just put them below this video. If you will be watching this video somewhere else on some other channels in replay, you can always find us on Facebook at the family, the Freudian slip. It's a family at the Feminine Power Vortex group, which is the group where you connect with people like us, and if you are going through through awakening process, if you have any questions, if you need support, that is the place to come and ask that, and be in that high frequency place of presence, of conscious presence, of being, of your true self, which will help you to grow and transcendent, and finally just to make it your daily and natural state of existence. So I guess for tonight, I can't see any comments on Facebook at this point of time. I'll check them later. Thank you so much, Maria, for your time, for having this really wonderful conversation. It's just so beautiful to be able to talk about these subjects and touch upon so many important aspects that I think everyone should be aware of. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful. And yeah, whatever resonates, there'll be just one word that perhaps somebody will hear 3 years later. If not now, you know, it's that resonance, whatever. Drop a comment if something resonated, questions or anything like that, because it's like literally everybody will hear, depending on where you are, something will resonate. And that's the beauty of it, because it will resonate to your own journey. And just stay with it, you know, question it, reach out to it, because that's self. What resonates is self, you know. So yeah, thank you for having me. Let's do it again.
We'll be doing that again. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you
for watching that, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
All right.